In the first podcast, I explained who I was, what we were trying to achieve, and I made reference to Jason, my silent podcasting partner, who is a reformed fraudster. These are going to be Jason's words spoken by me for the reasons previously discussed. In a nutshell, he is terrified of being identified by those who he's worked with in the past, and to prevent this from happening, I'm going to speak his words. Here we go. This feels weird, so I'm going to keep this brief. Recording a podcast about fraud is as much a surprise to me as perhaps watching it is to you. I'm no longer a bad guy, but neither do I consider myself to be a good guy. I only agreed to do this when my own parents were scammed and the trauma I had caused to others came back to bite me badly. Had this not happened, would I still be scamming people? Yes, I would. The money was too good, the lifestyle was too rich, and the ease at which the banks and individuals could be defrauded was easy beyond belief. So having given up doing what I did, why go the extra mile in helping an ex-cop produce a podcast on the subject? I'm sure some psychologists would say that some of it is undoubtedly vanity and that I want to boast about my previous successes. Maybe. But I think there is also a large part of me that is genuinely ashamed of what I did and the hurt that I've caused. And this is the only way I can think of giving something back. As fraud guys, we used to joke about how gullible victims were and how disinterested the banks were in stopping us. My ex-partner has already made it clear that fraud is not a priority for policing. As if I hadn't guessed that already. I never thought in a million years I would be on the other side of the fence, advising people how fraud guys operate and as a result, how to avoid becoming one of their victims. It's probably worth me spending a few minutes setting the scene to allow you to understand a bit about me and why I did what I did. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you anything personal from which you could identify me. Neither am I going to incriminate myself. You may think that some of the posts that follow, I'm really talking about myself. No comment. Whilst I'd always try to persuade myself that I was only ever scamming faceless banks and businesses, the reality of what I did only kicked in when I saw the enormous emotional impact firsthand when my own parents were scammed. Neither of them slept for weeks. They both became terribly depressed and my dad blamed himself for being so gullible. In some way, I hope by doing this, it will put right some of the damage I've caused by warning others how fraud guys think and operate. I've genuinely given up my old job and I now work part-time in a legitimate job, earning a pittance in comparison. And I use the term job because that's exactly what it was to me. I worked 5 days a week. My various colleagues and I joined forces to achieve our common goals. We had meetings, usually in pubs or coffee shops, but obviously we never took minutes. We all benefit from the profits if things went well, and we networked with others who had the same interests and shared good practice if we found something worked particularly well. Very businesslike. I think I should also make it clear that I was never even arrested, never charged and never convicted. For the avoidance of doubt, I do not have a criminal record. I still socialise regularly with many of my ex-colleagues and I'm sure you can understand why I'm remaining anonymous. Organised crime groups and a few very serious individuals would not take too kindly to what I've decided to do. I still enjoy the nice things in life. I live in a good part of London. I don't smoke, but I enjoy wine. I feel guilty about not exercising more than I do. I've got lots of acquaintances, but comparatively few friends. And those I do have had jobs similar to or associated with what I used to do. My biggest failing is that I'm essentially lazy. Other than me, my entire family have got an incredibly strong work ethic. They'd be horrified if they'd realised how I've funded my lifestyle in the past. If I'm honest, I'm also selfish and arrogant. I've found it very difficult to feel pity for people who I took advantage of, because really they should have known better. I earned more in a day than most of my legitimate acquaintances earned in a month. Yes, of course I took risks, but they were calculated risks. I knew that as long as if I didn't get greedy, the chances of being caught were very, very slim. And even if what I did was reported to police, there was little chance of ever being caught. The police are far too busy dealing with more important stuff, the sexy cybercrime news that Marks and Spencers have been messed up, that type of thing. The common stuff is as easy as ever and is barely reported. And that's why preventing people from becoming victims in the first place has to be the best way forwards. In each of the types of fraud I'm going to talk about, I will try to describe how fraud guys make approaches and create situations to draw people like you in. The idea is that showing you what these red flags look like, you will recognize them and become less likely to become a victim yourself. We've agreed to call me Jason, which I don't think suits me, but I suppose that's the point. My email is reformedfraudster, all one word, @gmail.com. And I can't promise to answer all of your questions, but please feel free to ask. And let me know if there's any particular types of fraud you want me to talk about